How's it going?
It's good. It's good. Something with this particular podcast that I was just telling you that I tell our comments, and I don't think I've ever said it during the podcast is that this podcast has no agenda to it. I mean, it's
I've listened and I noticed.
good.
I said they're going nowhere.
Yes.
I don't know. No.
It's exactly right. I've accomplished my deal. I wanted to truly call this podcast Backstage Bullshit or Bullshitting Backstage.
Right.
And then Jason told me, he goes, you can't call it that. And I go, why? He goes, because you'll get bumped off of too many things. I said, because of the word bullshit? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, is that not kind of...
I don't know about you, but I'm on the internet a lot.
Yeah.
And man, I'm always blown away by some of the things that it'll say. Like, I'll see a meme and the meme will have F word this, S word that, and then they'll literally put an asterisk over the word die. And it's because it gets flagged as being violent. And I go, you just said all the words you can't say on the FCC. But if you tune into TV, I'll watch 7 people die flipping through the channels.
Oh, of course.
We literally go to sleep watching Forensic Files, and there's like Forensic Files uses actual photos of the body on the floor,
right.
And it's on like network television at 7:30 at night. My kids, and it's the channel right after SpongeBob, so I have to just hope there's not a corpse on the screen as I'm flipping through. But
it's never made sense.
I don't think it's never. No.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
Ever since I've gotten started in shit in the 70s, it never made sense.
And yet the top podcast, one of the top podcasts, is WTF with Mark Maron. You know, and it's like, I think if people want to find it, they'll find it.
Oh yeah, I think so too. But it was just. I mean, I was kind of almost insistent. Let's call it that, and he was like, no, it'll just get too, but you just said, I mean, but WTF now? They don't say fuck. They just say okay. I could have said BS. Yeah. I could have said BS in Backstage, and that would have been...
Nobody knows what WTF means.
No, well, why would they?
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's funny because I was we just had a conversation about you yesterday when you weren't here.
Oh,
that's
okay.
when we talked the most about you.
Good.
And Vinny and I were talking, and the host was here, and he was talking. We were all chatting, and Vinny went out on stage, and he said the F word a few times, and I go, I said Les is loosening up a bit, and he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, when I first started here, Les was always like, you need to be cleaner, and he goes, I think he just was lying to you. And I was like, what? I've been writing all this clean material for McCurdy's. And I always thought it was ironic because I'd text Ken Miller, our good friend Ken, and I'd be like, Les is telling me that I can't use the F word. And then goes down on stage and says the F word 47 times before I walk out.
Yes.
I said, I don't know if he's personal or what, or maybe didn't like the way I said it. But, it was
what I'm wondering on that is that because the only thing that makes sense to me, because I've never told comics what they can and cannot say. The only thing I gear towards is I compliment the headliner. So if the headliner uses a lot of profanity, everybody uses a lot of profanity. If the headliner's squeaky clean, we're squeaky clean.
Right. Yeah.
So it just compliments that. But I think in conversation with you, knowing that you were trying to head towards this teacher thing.
Yeah.
And with that, you had to develop a show that, was acceptable for that, but which, just like when Tim the dairy farmer came to my class and said, I don't want to work clubs. I just want to be a comic for the ag community. And I go, well, that's the fucking right idea, because clubs is... fun. They're fun, but unless you're a drawing ticket, they're the lowest ebb of money. Really. I mean, as we know, but becoming the teacher guy or whatever, I mean, the money goes way up.
Corporate work is definitely way better, of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic because, the corporate work is better, but the corporate crowds are not.
Right.
And so, they're like, man, how much money did you get for that? And I said, you know what? I would have taken a quarter of that to do that event in a comedy club with random people.
Right.
It's a wild thing. You always look at like the Seinfelds and the Gaffigans and you see them popping up and you're like, oh, they must be running material. And I go, maybe. I said, but also it's just kind of fun. You do the theaters and it's neat and everything, but man, that club feel, you pack 70 people in a room, low ceilings, that the smell of alcohol, you can see the food being served right in front of you, the unknowns. I just think that there's something so special about that.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think a part of that too is when I tell people that, when you get somebody that doesn't play clubs, they're a theater act. They're a 2,000 seater or more kind of act, and then you see them in the comedy club, and we get them sometimes. And people, how'd you get them? I said they still take money, even though I'll say this: every time I've ever booked a celebrity I've never had, I always immediately look up their net worth. And you know what I find out every time? They don't need to play my club. Every time I go, well, for certain they do, but they still like making a good chunk of money,
right?
But they're working on a special, and the thing is, of course, is that when you're playing to television, then you want the response, the rhythm of the show has to be more like a club, immediate. The laugh has to hit you like bam.
Yeah.
And the bigger the venue, just by the math of it, the physics of it, you got to wait on the laugh. You got to
wait. You got to hopefully, one of the things when we first started doing theaters, when I was doing theaters, I went out on stage the first time and I got off stage and I said, I'm not touching the stage until we have monitors. I said, I have to be able to hear myself. I said, I can't hear anything coming out of the mic. It's going out into this giant ethosphere. It's just reverberating off the walls. I don't know what part they're getting, when they're getting it. I'm trying to feed off the laughter, but it's cavernous and you're hearing just nothing sometimes.
Right.
And but their faces are moving and you're like, what is going on? We did. I did this show at in Disney area in Dr. Phillips, and we did this beautiful theater. And one of the things when I looked it up, all my friends, I can't believe you're in that theater. It's going to be so much fun. Oh, what an exciting theater to do. And I said, I looked it up, and they said it's the most acoustically sound theater in the United States. And that it's made to absorb sound. And I said, I'm going to hate every second of that show. And sure enough, I was up there and I was just in a vacuum.
Right.
And I mean, it's you're talking to yourself. You're
yes.
like, what is this? The worst one I ever did. Have you ever done an amphitheater?
Yes.
I opened for Peter Cetera.
Yeah.
Did an amphitheater.
Yep.
And I had to just literally... hello, like 4 times. Like, I think the mic's on. I don't know. It's just just hear breezes. You're like, whew.
Ken Sons and I opened for Kenny Rogers at the one over near Sunrise, and we're of course you've never done an amphitheater, you've never been asked to, and all of a sudden you just think as a comedian, whenever you get like us, you feel like I can get them. I can get them. Yeah. I've worked crazy bullshit one-nighters where nobody was paying attention. I could get them. We stood in the wings of that amphitheater, and I looked at Ken and I went, unless one of us figure out how to shoot fire out of our ass with a Roman candle going out of it, I'm pretty sure most of this crowd will have no idea we were ever up there. They will think it's a sound check.
Yep. It's just an extended sound check.
Exactly.
Boy, that guitar tech's pretty funny, I think.
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And after doing that, and of course, on top of it, you're not the headliner, so nobody really, and but I do that, and I go, even even when you are the headliner and everybody's there to see you, why the fuck do you want to play? Why does Kevin Hart want to stand in the middle of a stadium? I mean, I don't know.
In the round, too. I don't understand the in the round. I understand for one purpose only: maximize seating capacity.
Correct.
It's a huge money grab. But in the round for a comic, there's at any point in time, 60% of that audience cannot see your face during the punchline.
Right.
And it's you have your back to somebody trying to make them laugh.
Or they're just watching it on a screen.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, exactly right. Because, it's like how many times when I teach comedy, lots of times one of the things I'll have the class do is I'll go, look, go home, take a look at a clip of a comic you love and find a clip, just a short clip that makes you laugh. Mm-hmm. Transcribe it. Mm-hmm. Transcribe it. See if it reads funny.
Yeah.
Most of the time it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And what it does, it shows you is it's maybe more it's the other, it's how they're saying it more than what they're saying. It's the performance behind it. You know? And like you say, when you get into that kind of a thing, it's like it's totally, it's like the Gator Growl stories. Mm-hmm. Do you know Gator Growl?
No, I don't know the Gator Growl.
All right, Gator Growl, University of Florida's homecoming. I guess they still do it. I don't know. But for years and years and years, it was a big deal that they hired 2 comedians to perform in the stadium. Half the crowd is students, half the crowd is alumni. So there is it's almost impossible to win over the whole crowd.
Right.
You're either getting one or the other, And everybody I've talked to said it was one of the most frightening things they had ever done. And I know one of the famous stories was Bob Hope bombed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like bombed. And Jeff Foxworthy told me it was the scariest thing there. And he actually did. You could see Jeff catching both of them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He had the kind of act that kind of caught both. But it's a feast or famine thing.
Oh, yeah.
There's no middle ground on it.
No.
And I think in all the years they booked it, because I think it was the student, I believe it was the student organization that booked it. Mm-hmm. They know that. They know it's kind of like they do it like as a tradition, but part of it is, we're bringing 2 celebrities and let's see if they can, make it work or not. Yeah. Not like, this is always great every fucking year.
No,
they know it's not.
They just want a reason to get out and do something.
Exactly.
It's just you're just the focal point of a drinking good time.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And they're offering you a boatload of fucking money to do it.
I didn't get a load of money to open for Peter Cetera.
No.
But,
neither did I.
The funniest thing about that story to me is, I'm getting ready to go up on stage and there's an amphitheater and I'm nervous as can be. They're like 30 minutes on the dot, not a minute less, not a minute more. I'd been rehearsing forever. And they go, "What song do you want to come out to?" And I said, is it like, can I just pick? And they go, well, actually, they go, you know what, we'll kind of go through our catalog, see what we have, and we'll pick something to kind of amp up the crowd for you. And I'm thinking AC/DC, I'm thinking some, maybe a little BTO, maybe, I don't know, something big, Casey and the Sunshine Band. And all of a sudden the lights go out, the spotlight comes on, and they go 3, 2, 1, and go. And all of a sudden I hear the Looney Tunes theme song. I've never been more insulted in my life. I mean, just walking out there completely defeated before I even said a single word. And I got to go out to the Looney Tunes theme song.
There you go, man. Yeah. That's it. Well, you came in. We got to watch. It's so cool to me to have comics like you that I watched come in here for the first time as a support act. and then get to headline and do really well. And you've been doing really well. I mean, your teacher things, and that's where you have like 4 or 5 teachers, right?
Yeah, there's 4 teachers. I headline the tour.
Right,
and,
right.
So we have a host, 2 teachers go out, 2 teacher comics, then I close out the shows. Yep.
Right. And that's doing well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just sold out in Chicago, big theater there, 3,800 people.
That's outstanding.
It's wild, man. I posted on my stories the just seeing the names of the people that had like crossed onto that stage.
Right.
Like you're in the green room and they've got like Carlin up on the wall and Prince and Sting was there the week before us, and it's like, what? It's like, what? I'm standing and it's the venue's mics, and I'm literally going, this could be Sting's mic. I could be literally talking into the same mic that Sting just saying, "Don't stand so close to me," which, to be honest with you, with a teacher tour, kind of
yeah,
a little irony there.
Yeah, nice. It is. It's you put something together and you guys made it work, and obviously it's been going now for what,
3 years.
Yeah,
and we go to the end of May, and then we have a run through the UK for 2 weeks.
Oh, great!
And then we're looking at fall Australia. So, and that'll be my second tour of Australia. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With the teacher thing?
I did before. I opened for a guy over in Australia.
Okay.
And that was just, amazing.
The crowds were incredible?
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I go, I don't know if this is it going to work? And it turns out teachers are miserable worldwide. Like turns out it's just as good. I'm like, you guys don't get paid a lot either? Like, no. And I'm like, all right. Yeah.
I think Asia is the only place that pays teachers.
Yeah,
like
any amount of money.
Yeah, exactly right.
My friend went over there, started teaching in South Korea. Mm-hmm. He sent me a picture from the gym, and he goes, "This is our gym." And I mean, it looked like the Chicago Bulls play there. And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I said, "That's unbelievable." He goes, "Yeah, it's on the 5th floor." And I said, "You're kidding." And he goes, "No." He said that the entire like school complex was like 12 floors of just pristine classrooms. I mean, top paid teachers. And he goes, "I make way more. My money goes way further." He said, "I just bought a custom tailored suit and it was $20 US." And he said, "I went in and they fitted me." He said the same suit would have cost $1,000 in the US. And he goes, "And the best thing is," he goes, "I'm in the middle of Asia." And he said, "We have very busy airports here in South Korea." And he said, "So we only teach Monday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday off." He goes, "I will literally just go, you know what, I think I'm going to go to Shanghai this weekend and walk around, and I think I'll go here. And he goes, and I have plenty of money, plenty of opportunities. And the kids are so great and the parents are on top of it that you don't have to go, oh, whose parent do I need to call? Because you don't have to call anybody's parents because the parents already know the exact grades they've got. If an F hits that, oh my goodness," he said, it's corrected. He said, "You get apology letters the next day. I'm so sorry my son did that." And it's just like, I mean, a dream.
That's cool. I've stumbled across articles that if I got it right, that in some Asian countries, teachers are in the same pay level as attorneys.
Very valued.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Valued
right.
and above all, even more than what teachers, it's not necessarily the pay, it's the respect. I think for a long time, teachers just simply took a lot of like pay cuts just to go, well, I'm in a respectable position. A lot of people, look up to me. I'm a pillar of the community. I have so many students that value me. And it's just like, it's gone downhill. Now you don't have anything.
Right.
You don't have anything to look forward to. I mean, you try to make those connections, but now you got kids hitting you, and
right.
talking down on you, and parents that aren't on your side anymore, and government that doesn't support you. And so it's difficult. Now we're actually looking for the money, going, hey, look, I gotta one or the other.
Right.
But to not have both, you gotta figure that out.
Well, I know it kind of, and my sister was a high school teacher up a suburb outside of Nashville, and the last 10 years she's been retired for about 10 years, but the last 10 years she was in, she goes, it just progressively got worse, the behavior with the students, and no backup from anybody. And she got to the point where she was about just a couple of years from retiring, And she goes, I'm tired of having students, when I call them out, somebody tell me out loud that they just might kill me. Mm-hmm. Out loud.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she goes, so she went to her principal and she goes, look, man, if she retired early, she could do it, but she would lose her health care benefits.
Yep.
And she goes, I'm going to tell you, man, it's worth it. She goes, either move me to an elementary school for my last couple of years, or I can't do this shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of teachers that I know that were scared of losing their health care, lost their health care, and then found their health improved. And they didn't need the health care. The whole reason you had to have the health care in the first place was the job was killing you, know?
Right.
And so
I'm amazed they can get. I know that the teacher thing over the years, I've seen that it seems like there's an abundance of teachers, and then all of a sudden it starts to get like this, and then they can't get anybody to teach.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's kind of where we're headed right now.
Oh, yeah.
But then at the point where you truly can't get anybody to teach you, that's what it takes. It's for then all of a sudden everything starts getting better because they have to, or because the one thing parents don't want is their kids at home.
Yeah, not at all.
No.
Yeah. Yep. That's where it becomes a bit difficult. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there's a solution anywhere. It's seems like you said, it's in cycles, but it seems like this has been a pretty long cycle. Everybody thought it would improve after COVID, and
right.
The truth is, it did get better because we had COVID funds, and then the COVID funds ran out, and now they've gone back to. It's just like, come on.
I know.
And I know that they're not one and the same, but it does get disheartening, to see as a whole our country's priorities where, we sign off on $50 billion loans to other countries. And it's like, do you know what that would have done to the education system in the U.S.?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that kind of influx of cash.
You take a tiny 5% out of the military budget. Mm-hmm. And apply it to public schools, and I mean that's massive fucking money. It's like so.
And it worries me too because the more depressed teachers get, the funnier they get, and then I've got competition. It's just it's like I don't know. I kind of hope we keep them there. I'm over here trying to make a career out of this.
Like and I'd be interested to get your thought on this. What do you think? For what teachers do, what do you think it would be if money was, we got the money. We fucking got the money. Mm-hmm. What's a fair pay for a teacher?
I would say double the income that you're currently at. Because I get that some
6 figures.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, so some states, you're maybe at 50 or 40, but the cost of living is so substantially lower. But
right.
And then we look at New York and we go, oh, they make 120. It's like, yeah, but it's $4,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Right.
So maybe San Francisco, they were talking about building, and I think they did. They built like homes like for teachers. Yeah,
right.
And it's like, okay, can we just pay them enough to afford a home on their own, where they're not in suddenly a Pullman mine community, and again we're back in the 1800s where you're indentured servitude to the corporation. I mean, it's frustrating to see that kind of stuff.
Well, you're that's what I always thought too. Is that I know that most of the teachers that I've known were in that started in the 40s and maybe got up to 60.
Yeah.
And I thought that's half.
Yeah.
That's half of what they ought to be paid.
Yeah. I started off at 34, and 5 years later, we had the state of Florida pass the 3% mandatory retirement contribution, even though they were supposed to be handling the retirement on their own. It failed at every level of court challenge until it got to the Florida State Supreme Court, and then it passed. Every single way they were like, this isn't right, this isn't right, this isn't right. Final one, they're like, do it. And so 5 years in, they took the 3%, and I was making less 5 years in teaching than I was my first year teaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
incredible.
Then they go, I don't know why there's not enough teachers. It's like,
yeah.
I've been there. Yeah.
And it's like anything. Most of the public has never done it.
Right.
and they think, oh, you're just teaching some kids. It's almost, it's like anything, like watching stand-up. Well, they're just up there fucking telling, they're just naturally funny, whatever. But I know myself, for a little while there, we did this kids comedy camp here, and these were kids like 6, 7 up to maybe 10, right in there. And Ken Sons and I did it together. We did one week with them. 1 week. I think we did it for. I think we maybe had them for 5 hours.
That's when you turn gray. I remember the transition. Yeah. I remember that. I was like, "What happened to him?" He's like, "He taught kids."
Yeah, and I mean, I was sitting there going, "We've got two of us on like 12 or 15 kids. 2 of us," and I go, Most teachers have 20 to 30 at least, one to that, and I mean it's you feel like if you could just put these people who allocate the money, who make these decisions, politicians, just put them in that classroom,
right? Yep.
Just put them. You do it, for 2 weeks, and tell me what you think.
I always tell my friends, there's a movement in Florida that right now they've got to where you can go out of high school and just start teaching, and they give you a temporary certificate to get your, they're like, oh, you can just work towards it while you're teaching. And it's funny to me because all the teachers I know, veteran teachers, I had to do 4 years. I had to get a degree. I had to go through the training. And I said, you're right. And what's great about this is you're looking at it from a logical educational perspective. I said, I'm now thinking of the entertainment aspect here because you're right. They have no training. I relate it to this. I say, it's like if you were a zoologist and every day for 20 years, you carefully feed the tigers. And one day a guest is like, can I try? And you're like, your heart says no, but your mind's like, this could be good.
Go ahead.
Hop on in
Give
there.
Give
it a shot. I mean, that's what we're at now. Is you just?
I know.
It's hard. People don't realize
when they said here, we'll let retired military or retired cops or something like that teach school. Yeah. And I go, first of all, I went, well, let's see how many of those stick around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I did a report on that. I do a state of teaching, which is where I go over and dive into like the real facts about this stuff.
Right.
And the state spent $4.5 million on that program, and we had 119 applicants. And of those, the state is refusing to give numbers on how many have stayed in the classroom. Because I guarantee it's one hand we can count. And we could have just gave 4 teachers $1.6 million to just go teach,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's, God almighty.
It's one of those things you just keep going, we'll just fix it. I've never seen something so cut and dry going, this is how you fix it. Right. And they go, well, what if we did it? No, I don't. This is how you. Well, what about it? This is how you. And they never do this is how. They try everything else. And
isn't that the thing? You're making a decision based on never having any actual experience in this. You're just getting some information from here or there, rather than going to the professionals who do this all the time, getting their opinion. But of course, as soon as they go there, they go, well, they're just going to want more money. Yeah. Well, yes, they are going to want more money.
Right.
And you know why you said that right off the bat? Because they're supposed to be getting more money.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to relate to something that we both do is when on corporate work. Yeah. How much $4,000. Okay, well, I got a guy over here who'll do it for $300. I say you're going to get a $300 show.
Correct.
You're going to get somebody who's never. It's just for somebody to quote you $300 on a corporate show, you're out of your mind.
Exactly.
And they know nothing about what they're doing. And
have fun.
Yeah,
have fun.
Good luck. Call me next year when you want somebody else that knows what they're doing.
I get that. I've gotten that over the years too. Is that whenever they call me, the first for any kind of event that's not that's a charity event or a country club event or something,
Christmas party.
Christmas party, whatever. and corporate kind of thing, but it's local. And I go, look, before we even talk or anything, for just 35 to 40 minutes, $2,000 is rock bottom. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. And maybe you get somebody for 15, but I said, if that's not in your budget, then there's no reason for us to even chat. And I tell them right then, I go, if anybody says they'll do it for less, I mean, you might get a good show. You might. It's a flip of a coin. Who the hell knows? You know what I mean? But exactly right. You know, who knows in that situation?
I had a country club reach out to me recently, and they were like, "We want to do a show for $1,000." I said, okay. I said, I got some buddies I can refer you to that could put that together and put on a decent show. And she goes, okay, great. We'd like Jim Brewer. I said, I can't get you Tim Brewer. I can't get you his cousin. I don't. Are you out of your mind? I don't think you know how this works. You don't get to just pick a famous comic after you decide on the budget. I don't. But all right.
Look up Jim's net worth.
Right. Exactly.
And then well, that was the thing. The story that I love is this lady called me, here. And or contact me, and so I called her, and she was down in Naples, and obviously had a lot of money. She goes, look, it's my husband's 60th. We're doing a birthday party in a tent, but on the beach, right behind, close to the Ritz-Carlton there, not on their property, but I knew where they were. About 150 people, and she goes, my husband loves Jackie Mason. Now, this was years ago back. Jackie had just finished. It hadn't been a year since he finished his successful Broadway show that he did. And Jackie had played here, actually, which was kind of wild. He always went to Van Wezel, but Elaine Boozler was here. And when he was here, and they're very close friends, and he came over to see Elaine, and he saw the club, and he decided to play it one time, so I knew him a little bit. So I said, look, lady, I'm just telling you right now, I'm not sure what the number is, but I'm betting it's not less than $50,000, okay? It's not less than that. And she's like, cool. No problem, right? I go, okay, all right. So I call up his agent and I go, will Jackie work a tent for a birthday? I said, how much for a private thing? I'm just curious. And it was right there. It was $50,000 plus. And I said, okay, will he do a birthday party in a tent, kind of thing, upscale, but then would he work in a tent? He goes, Les, he will sit on the front porch of a home in Alabama and tell jokes for $50,000. Yep. He don't give a shit but if you got his money. So I called the lady up. I said, yeah, I can put you. I said, but that's his number. And she goes, oh, that probably is a little high. She goes, what do you think? I said, well, what do you think money? She goes, half that. I said, okay, $25,000. Okay, I'm going to think, because you're talking about Jackie Mason, so I'm going to throw out David Brenner, Robert Klein, somebody like that. I think might be in that range. And so and so one of them said yes, and I call her back, and she goes, and this went down to 10, Richard Lewis, and then it went down to 5.
And you're like, Screech is available.
Oh, God almighty. But a buddy of mine is a music agent, and he used to be with one of the major, like CAA or somebody like that. And he started his own agency based on booking those kind of things, because most of the agents don't want that. They don't want to deal with somebody's wife or husband booking a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just rather, and so my buddy, when he was working there, he was like, I'll take it. And then he realized there's a bunch of that, and none of these guys want to do it. They don't want to mess with it, you know. So he started his own little thing, kind of doing that, you know.
I see that.
And he told me that, and Sting, he booked Sting in a backyard for 150 people.
My dad worked on property, lived in the house for a rich guy who owned a big nursery. And for his wife's birthday, he got her Alabama. And I mean, it was like 200 people. And Alabama came, performed full show right by his pool deck, you know.
Right. And he paid $1 million, I guarantee you.
Yeah, it was especially it was the 90s. I mean,
God, more than $1 million. Yes, absolutely. I opened for those guys one time over here at Ruth Eckerd Hall.
Oh, wow.
Me and Ken did, and so so we went out. We did our set. Back then they were, but we used to open for a lot of people there because the guy running the place liked having a comedy opening act to just do 35 minutes, but then they took an intermission so they could get a whole nother drink sale.
You know,
because they weren't, you know, so that they could just sell more stuff because the stars are taking all the ticket money, you know, and so we'd finished and we were backstage, and you know, when it's a band, there's a lot of hubbub going. So this guy walks up, this little short, you know, kind of heavy set guy, and he's like, you guys are real funny, man, and he told a joke. And it was funny. And we sat there and told a few jokes back and forth, and we were just sitting there talking. And he had earbuds kind of hanging out, you know. I'm so fucking stupid. And so Ken Sons knew, as we were talking that he knew I didn't know who I was talking to.
Right.
And it was the lead guitar player for Alabama.
Of course.
And eventually I go, well, what do you do around here? You know, I ask you, what's your job? I was like, oh, Jesus.
At least you weren't
Sorry,
like, you know,
boss.
we just got stuck opening for this shitty band today. You know?
Fucking Alabama. You know, oh, man. Hey, have you opened for many celebrities?
Tons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the nice, like really nice?
I mean,
one or two. I mean, I know that they can all be cordial and we'll get, but like was like kind of like you did.
I've had some rude ones, but I've had some really nice ones.
Yeah,
the nicest by far. Like, I mean, right away was the nicest guy in the world to me was Ralphie May.
Oh,
I did a set in front of him on a cruise ship, and I had the set of my life. I had just, I mean, the palm of my hand, the crowd. Bert Kreischer followed me, and I have it on tape where Bert followed me and goes, I can't follow him. He goes, I'm dying up here. He killed it. And Ralphie got up and goes, Devin was amazing. And I just go up, talk to Ralphie, and I'm just thinking, you know, hey, this would be great. He goes, hey, man. He goes, here's my phone number. Here's my email. Text me, call me. Any club in the country you want in, let me know. And Bert's like, he said it, he meant it. And I was not thinking anything of it. I see him coming through again, and I was like, oh, he's coming through. And I said, hey, you mind if I, hop on, just do 5? And he's like, you're on. He goes, I don't even have to call the club. Come, you're on. And I get there, and he's like, yeah, you did great. You killed it again. That was awesome. I said, yeah, I just got to head home. He goes, where's home? I said, Orlando. He goes, it's a 2.5-hour drive. He goes, I got your hotel. Don't worry about it. And he paid for my hotel, and he's like, anything else I can help you out with, man? And we were doing my radio show in Orlando, and I said, hey, man, I got a radio show. Are you coming through? He's like, closest I get is Jacksonville. Now, keep in mind, that's a 2.5-hour drive to Orlando. And he goes, but you know what? For you, he goes, I'll route the tour bus through there. And I was like, man, like, I mean, he's was
super guy.
Right away, the nicest guy.
When Ralphie started playing the club, before he completely blew up, but he was selling out the club, he just happened to be here when I did my golf tournament, charity golf tournament. And I had a heckle hole where I had people come out. It's a par 3, and I'd have as many people as I could, and they couldn't throw shit at you, and they couldn't get close to you, but they could yell, they could blast air horns, they could do. This is way before the tournament that the PGA has now. Where they do that. Well, I was doing that way before. Ralphie goes, he was here, and he goes, I'll come out. And Ralphie May sat there and fucking raised hell
of course.
all day long. And I don't know if you remember Diane Ford, God rest her soul. She just died this past year. She was a great comedian and nominated for American Comedy Awards Comic of the Year, I think 15 times, and never won it. But she was that. She was a big deal in the 80s and 90s. And she was very like she was not a soft soul.
Yeah.
And boy, to see her when she got up, she was playing in the tournament. When she got up there and Ralphie started in on her, oh God, I thought that was going to be violent. And he was having so much fun. But it was the first time Ralphie played the club. I'm watching his show, and then I left, and I think I went to the bathroom. And while I was in the bathroom, I heard him say Chattanooga, Tennessee. And that's where I grew up.
Oh, wow.
That's where I grew up. So after the show, I said, I didn't hear the bit. I was in the bathroom, but I heard you say Chattanooga, Tennessee. He goes, we lived there when I was a little kid. And he goes, the only thing I remember, that really sticks in my head, where there was these two kids that were in our neighborhood that I went to school that I played with, and their name was Joe. I think it was Joe and Nick Goulis. Their grandfather was my grandfather's best friend.
Wow.
And so, those are those kind of things that were like, no freaking way.
Yeah.
That's crazy, But he was always a nice guy.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was Clint Black.
Clint Black. Wow.
I mean, same. I mean, he was just like, Ken and I did the show together, and after we came off stage, he walked up there, and I mean, he must have talked for 2 or 3 minutes about our show before he started his show.
Yeah.
And then after the show was up, and then in the middle of his show, at a point, he was like, what about those comedians, Les and Ken again? God almighty, weren't they great? And then after the show, we went backstage to try to get a picture with him or something. And we thought, shit, they're all gone, And we're walking down the hallway, and he comes around the corner. And we're like, oh, and he goes, wait. He goes, I've been looking for you guys.
That's awesome.
And we said, so he did that, and then said, look, we do charity events. You got anything you can give us? He goes, yeah, hang on just a second. And he had a spare pair of blue jeans.
Wow.
And he signed the fucking blue jeans. We sold them at some charity event.
That's awesome.
But that, now, if you don't mind saying, who was like rude?
Okay, I'll tell you, and it wasn't. I'm only telling this story because it wasn't his fault.
Right.
But we just didn't get off to a good start.
Right.
And it just didn't, the fences didn't mend throughout the weekend. But I was opening for Rocky Laporte early on.
Oh, okay.
And don't get me wrong, love Rocky to death. I think he's hysterical. I had a great time that weekend. But professionally, we had just an issue that it was weird. I messaged him on Twitter and said, hey, I'm your opener this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. Would you mind if I brought merch? No hard feelings if not. If you, I'm just asking ahead of time as the opener. Respect.
Sure.
And he was like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, that's odd, okay. And so I get to the club, and he was in there talking to the owner, and I walk in, and he looks livid and walks out. And I was like, what happened? He goes, well, Rocky's mad that you called him out. And I'm like, what do you mean? And Rocky turned around and came right back in, and he goes, well, you messaged me, he goes, you called me out on Twitter. You publicly asked me if I could. He goes, I couldn't say no, that you can't bring merch. And I said, no, I sent you a direct message. And he goes, what's that? And I go, well, it's just between me and you. I said, it wasn't public. I didn't put it out there and tweet it. He goes, yeah, you did. And I said, no, I didn't. I showed him. I said, it's an email. It's like an email. And he goes, oh, all right. Well, Okay, well, I'll let you sell it this time. And I was like, okay. And I think he was a little embarrassed that he didn't know that I had sent a direct message, wasn't asking him publicly, because I had a lot of followers, and he thought I was literally asking him in front of everybody, hey, man, are you going to be nice and let me, forcing him into a corner.
So probably just embarrassed.
Yeah, embarrassed him a little bit. But
yeah.
then it was July, and this was Side Splitters Tampa.
Uh-huh.
And I go out, and we're getting ready to sell merch, and BT comes up to me and goes, Rocky wants you outside. I said, what do you mean? He goes, he wants you to sell in the parking lot. I said, I can't sell inside. He goes, nah. He's just, I don't know. There's some bad blood there. And I was like, okay. And so I had to, middle of July, mosquitoes, humidity.
God.
I'm out there trying to, and this is the thing, Les. My sales went up exponentially because people came outside and saw me sweating. I was like, ugh. They're like, what are you doing out here? I was like, they just put me out here. I don't know. Oh, well, let me buy a shirt. I looked so miserable out selling in the parking lot. Nice. And people were like, we got to support this guy.
Nice.
And, by the end of it, we had shook hands, made up and everything. It was just a misunderstanding in the beginning that, it was like, I think we could have talked it out earlier instead of letting it drag on through the weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You may even heard of this woman. Her name is Shirley Bassey.
Shirley Bassey.
She sang Goldfinger in the 007. That
I know
song,
exactly what you're talking about.
That's her. And so she's at Ruth Eckerd Hall.
Huh?
And so I get there, and she is a diva.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
She's one of those that when she's moving around, walking, there is always 5 or 6. It looks like a movie. There's 5 or 6 people surrounding her at all times. One person kind of making sure she looks okay. Another person's the assistant. And it is like a fucking movie.
Yeah.
And so she's walking around, and I'm like, and I'm kind of like, I don't know her, but I know she's a big fucking deal. And of course, I know who she is, and I boned up on her before I got there. So she's coming down the hallway, so I walk up to her, and I was like, hello, Miss Bassey, my name's Les McCurdy. I'm the comedian that's going to be opening the show. And the look on her face, her face fucking dropped.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like she heard that Southern accent, and she's looking at me and like, what the fuck is this? And at that moment, I realized she had no idea that I was even that anybody was opening for, and the idea that anybody was opening for her that wasn't something, that was just some Southern comedian, and she's British, she's royalty British,
of course,
and she was pissed. She was pissed, and pissed, and not showing it. Like what the fuck is this? And to the point where I think I just looked at her and said, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, I didn't book it. I got a phone call, said, you want to come do this thing? I do it a lot. I said, okay. And I got to tell you, when I walked out on stage, I got pretty much the same thing from the audience. As soon as I started talking, you could just tell. I got some laughs out of them, but at that first 5 minutes, they were just like, what is this?
That's great.
Who the fuck made this decision?
She was in the back. Boo.
Yes, get the fuck out of here.
You know that I moderated for William Shatner. Did you ever see that?
No.
The manager for William Shatner was our manager on tour, and he told me, he goes, hey, I need a moderator over I think it was actually in Clearwater.
Okay.
And I said, well, okay, yeah, I'll moderate. I'll go in and he goes, yeah, just ask questions and stuff. And I was like, okay.
Nice.
And so anyways, our manager told William Shatner that he knows me and that he goes, this guy's a good guy. He's a funny guy. And he calls me up. He goes, hey, Bill wants to have dinner with you before the show. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, just you and him. And I thought it'd be a nice restaurant, busy all around. It was a closed restaurant that was his favorite that he made open the doors just for us. And we had the prime table in the middle. All the lights are out except for the light above our table. And I sit down, and William Shatner comes in and just starts asking me questions about me, and was the nicest guy, the sharpest guy in the world. And he goes, so tonight, he goes, and I had all the cards that the audience had submitted. And he goes, tonight, he goes, ask a few. He said, but let's just talk. He said, you're a comic. He goes, let's laugh. Let's have some fun. He goes, don't be afraid to, go in and have a good time. I said, all right. And so, the funniest part of this is there's a 1 minute intro. And I go out and I intro the video, and it shows like career highlights. And then I go, ladies and gentlemen, William Shatner. And that was the longest minute of my life, because I'm standing there, and 10 seconds in, my legs start shaking. And I go, oh my God, this is William Shatner. You're standing on a sold out stage, and you and William Shatner have to fill an hour. And I'm like, I'm out of my element. What do I do? And I mean, I'm literally, if there was video of me, I guarantee I just had a little wobble to the side, like, do not collapse, Devin. Don't do this. And I could not have said, ladies and gentlemen, William Shatner, quicker to get over to that chair to have a seat. And we're talking right off the bat, and he said something that opened up a joke for me. And I'm sure somebody's got it on the video, but I went in and I clapped back at him and did a joke, and it was hysterical, but it was at his expense, just joking about his character, or his, right. And he paused for a second, and then he just bursted out laughing. I mean, red in the face, thought it was the funniest thing ever, and it was just on right then. I mean, we had a full hour of laughs. And after the show, he was like, that was one of the funnest. He goes, I absolutely loved it. Wrote me a big card, big thank you. You were amazing, Devin, Bill Shatner, and it was, and he didn't leave right after. We just sat and talked in the green room for another hour.
That's fantastic.
Awesome guy. Yeah.
And that there, one, it doesn't surprise me that he wanted to sit down with you before and get to know you a little bit, because he goes, shit, I don't want to go up cold with this guy. And
right.
He don't know me, and he knows who he is compared to, what I mean?
Yeah.
And how smart that was of him, and gracious, and that's a thing that I've found is that I've done a bunch of corporate events, and whoever is the biggest dog in the room, that's who you got to mess with kind of first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that. And I've only had two situations where I didn't do that. One situation where I did it and the person didn't take it well. One situation where I didn't do it, and that was Jack Nicklaus.
Oh, yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
Just
leave Jack alone.
Right.
Yeah, don't. Yes, sir. But every other, they're always gracious with that, because I've found that people that are extremely successful, they're that confidence that comes with that, I mean, obviously, as we say that, that's you'd wonder why the fuck would Brady allow that roast to happen? I mean, what in the world did he have to gain from that?
Right.
Well, I mean, what and anybody, who's super famous that allows that roast to happen that they do. But it just shows that confidence that they have, that they go, yeah, I can let them, let the public see that I can, that I'm not up on I am up on a pedestal, but
Yep. It's kind of a weird thing, but some celebrities just don't. They're so used to just being praised. Hey man, I loved you in. Hey, oh wow, you're one of my favorite. It's like praise, praise, praise. And some guy's like, hey, you know what? You're kind of a prick. And they're like, I love you. Thank you for saying. I connected so well with Pauly Shore.
Yeah.
And the reason I connected with Pauly is I didn't want to talk about Pauly Shore.
Right.
And everybody wants to talk about Pauly Shore with Pauly Shore.
Yes.
Pauly Shore's sick of talking about Pauly Shore.
Yes.
And so when we walked in, I was like, hey, Pauly. I said, this is my buddy Richie. He just got cheated on. And I was like, and me and Richie are talking about him being cheated on. I see Pauly's chair start to scoot over just a little bit. And he's like, so what happened, bro? And it was, the focus was off of him right off the bat.
Exactly.
And there was no, hey, we want to talk about you. It was just, this is life. Let's
having a comedy club, of course, been around a ton of celebrity comedians, but I've also been around a lot of celebrity musicians and actors and stuff like that, and several I'm friends with, and some of them are big.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's it like? And I say the same thing. I go, I don't ever ask questions about, not really about life, career, nothing like that. I pretty much let them I just kind of let them take the lead, like you said Shatner did.
Yeah.
Let them take the lead, and then where do they want to go? And like you say, I told you before, when I've introduced them to people, I go, whatever you do, if you'd like to sit and talk with them for a while, don't be a fan.
Yeah.
They know you're a fan.
Yep.
Don't be a fan. Just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you, sit here bullshitting around, and that will make that person more comfortable than anything in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adam Sandler doesn't want to hear that Mr. Deeds was the greatest movie, but he'll respond if you go, I think I could beat you in basketball. He'll be like, let's go. I mean, that's just, it's something they don't want to talk about.
That's
career,
right. That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's who was it that was here? Josh Blue was just here last week. And, Josh makes a statement on stage. He has a bit that's about becoming a celebrity. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I don't know if you ever heard him do it. Mm-hmm. He goes, everybody has a preconceived notion of what they think becoming a celebrity is going to be like. He goes, I know I did. And he goes, and here's what I've found. It's nothing like that. And he goes, you know what being a celebrity is? I spend half my public life either trying to play up or deny who I am. That's just the deal,
Yeah, I can believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't bring out a camera.
No. Nope.
No.
Did you ever hear what Flea said about that, the bassist?
No.
He said, the second you bring out a camera when you're talking to me, he said, I'll talk to you all day long about Red Hot Chili Peppers, music, your favorite song. He said, the second you bring out a camera, he said, it becomes an exchange. You want something from me.
Right.
He said, then let it happen naturally. Be in the moment.
Right.
He said, the second that it's like, I want to take something away from this from you.
Correct.
And he said, let's just talk.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's like I know with some of the biggest celebrities, it's like if I have a picture with them, it's because somebody else came in with the camera and said, "Let's take a picture." And I'm like, "Well, whatever, but don't bring out a camera if you want to be, you want to be buddies." Well, cool. Well, it's great. It's great to have you back. As always,
of course.
and thanks for doing this. And